All Blacks against France, folks. Game number 3. Series is already wrapped up for the ABs. Injuries and a few selection changes means it doesn't quite look like a full-strength All Blacks team. I wouldn't say a B team by any means, but, no Cody Taylor, no Cam Roigard, no Geordie Barrett and whatnot, and a few other guys out injured. Plus the French have kind of bolstered their side from the one that played last week. Feels like it could be a bit of a tasty one down in Hamilton. We'll go through the squads which have been named, some of the stats, predictions, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on how this one is going to go. It is on Hamilton. And series already wrapped up. 31-27 was closer than expected 2 weeks ago, and then 43-17 was a little bit more, I feel like, pressure relieving for Razor. And he's obviously felt the freedom to make some changes and give some guys a crack. I mentioned Geordie, Cam, and Cody all being rested, but there's another bunch of guys out injured. So Bodie's out injured, Tupavai's out with a concussion, Caleb Clark's got an ankle injury, he never even got a game, Scooter Barrett's still out, Wallace Atiti's still out, so it is a little bit of a depth test for these ABs. De Groot, Tokiaho, and Lomax is the front row. Lomax's first game since returning from injury, so we'll see what kind of match sharpness he's in, and it's Tokiaho's first start, so he'll get a chance to really stake a claim in the absence of Cody Taylor. Paddy Tuipulotu and Fabian Holland continue on. Holland has been, it's 2 games against a less than full-strength French side, but dude can only play what's in front of him, and so far has been playing really well. Line-out work, and has been the All Blacks' top tackler in both games he's played. Not a bad introduction to test footy for him. Samipeni Finau is promoted up from the bench to the number 6 role, with obviously no Vai and no Scooter Barrett. We are a little bit being tested there, and they don't have a genuine lock on the bench. So he is essentially the guy who's got a bit of a microscope on him, old Samipeni Finau, because I feel like he's one of the ones who's been singled out for maybe not performing like the kind of impact role that was wanted from the bench in that win last week, which whilst it was, pretty impressive on the scoreboard, 43-17, second half was 14 points apiece. So the All Blacks didn't exactly carry on and do that traditional All Blacks thing where they really pile on the points in the final 20. Savia still captains the side at number 7, and he's been the top ball carrier for the ABs in terms of pure number of carries for the first 2 games. So you can expect him to once again lead from the front. And then Luke Jacobson is another one who is getting his first game, back from injury against the Crusaders in that Super Rugby final. So that's the forward pack. There are a fair few changes there with the lock and duo, the only area that sees kind of stability in that one spot. Ratsima and Dimak is an all-new 9-10 combo, but it is the Chiefs reunited, and Ratsima alongside Finau. Maybe it's just something against the Chiefs guys. But Ratsima is very much living in the shadow of Cam Roigard right now. Roigard very much well loved. His boot has been impressive, and his carries are very destructive. Ratsima's impact from the bench has maybe not lived up again to that standard. As I said, when you bring on the replacements, you want to see them add some punch. Last week's effort was even Stevens in the second half. So, yeah, Ratsima and Dimak could use a good game together where they look sharp and pull the strings in that kind of halves combo. Tupaia likewise gets a game after missing out on game 2, back from game 1 on the bench, and he's alongside ALB. So it's a real Chiefs looking backline with a bit of Rico there on the left, Severis on the right, and then Ruben Love at 15. So I think there'll be a lot of excitement for Ruben Love to see how he can go, because he's only had, I think, the 1 test cap thus far. But yeah, he's been impressive in Super Rugby this year for the Canes. So we'll see what he can do. So apart from the outside backs, it's basically the Chiefs backline, but that's 3 out of the 7 who aren't Chiefs, I suppose. McAllister's going to get his debut from the bench, so big congratulations to him. With Cody Taylor not in the squad, it's a chance. George Bauer, first time playing for the ABs for a wee while, so good to see him back in. Newell drops to the bench. He's been impressive in terms of the scrum pressure, so it'll be a couple of Crusaders to come off the bench and add some impact. And then Dalton Papali'i likewise getting his first game of the campaign. He's not a lock, but he's in the number 19 jersey. You got to feel like he's going to come on alongside Duplessis Karefi. That's a whole heap of tackles from both of those 2 guys, which maybe sees Artie get a rest potentially, and likely Samipeni move into the second row at some point. Noah Hotham's going to get his first game. Timothy Tapatabanawa his second game for the ABs, and then Will Jordan will obviously add some much needed defenders beaten, clean breaks, X Factor stats when he comes off the bench, assuming he does. For the French, I think this team is a pretty good balance of the ones that played in the first and the second week. Ardosio, Bougari, and Slimani. Like Slimani, the veteran, is recalled after missing out on game 2, back in at tight head. Bougari gets promoted from the bench. He's been a bit of a tackling machine. Urado is back in the second row after performing pretty well in game 1. He's alongside Alangahu, who played in game 2. Fisher is back there in number 6, and he was the top tackler of game 1. So the forward pack is already looking somewhat bolstered from the French. Guillard was the other top tackler of the French forwards in game 1. The guy is an absolute machine. We saw it in the Six Nations and we saw it in game 1. He didn't get to play in game 2. He's at 7 rather than 8 this time. Brennan, who played lock in game 2, is now at number 8 for game 3. I don't know that he's played a heck of a lot of 8. I think he's more of a lock who can play a little bit on the flank, but we'll see what kind of control he's got of the ball with his feet at the back of the scrum, or they may get him and Guillard to swap at times, depending on if it's defensive or offensive scrums, but we'll kind of wait and see. I was a little bit curious to see that one, but certainly some height in this French back row, because, Guillard can play lock as well. And then the backs, Ligarec and Astoy, very attacking-minded 19 combo, I feel. Segon was obviously with that big boot of his in games 1 and 2 at 10 for the French, but Astoy, I feel like will likely add a bit of attacking, potentially heads-up rugby play there. Fiku is back in, the veteran, and he was the top back tackler of the French in game 1. Remember, they made like 200 tackles in that first game. That was only a 4-pointer. So his being back is a big bolstering, and he's captain. Deporter continues on at 13. Atesogbe has been good in both games, particularly game 1 under those high balls. He's there on the right wing. Villiers, the wee pocket rockets, back in on the left wing. And then Barret, a lot of Kiwi fans, I think, saw him maybe for the first time last week. I had people on the live stream going, geez, big dude, big boot. That's him. So that's like Barret, Legarec, Villiers in recent years, Bougari, like a lot of these guys are closer to the A team than the C team. Put it that way. Bench-wise, Balo, Malay, and Bamba gets his first crack. He's beaten the French squad in the past as well. A bit of a devastating tight head prop, so good to see him in. Tofa Fanua's again going to add some punch from the bench as the big tight head lock. Tisserand and Bocheton, a couple of forwards extra, so it's just a 6-2 split for them. Dalbanya and Gaiton, just the two backs on the bench. So physically, man, this is a big old looking forward pack from the French. I think it looks like a pretty tasty one. The bookies have still got the All Blacks as pretty comfortable favourites, like 16 or 18 points, depending on which bookies you look at. But the rugby forecast algorithm is going a little bit more conservative, saying by 10. Remembering that the algo doesn't look at team lineups. So it doesn't know that Bodie's got a hand injury and Scotty Barrett's out, and it doesn't know that DuPont's not playing and all that kind of stuff. But it still says by 10. It is on at Hamilton, which is a great rugby ground. You can get very close to the action there. 7:05 local kickoff. Should be a good atmosphere down there. Fingers crossed for fine weather. Angus Gardner, the Aussie, is the ref, which may give the All Blacks a little bit of advantage in terms of familiarity with the ref, being a kind of more local guy just across the border, across the ditch. We don't have a border with Australia. We are not connected. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon this one is going to go? What team is this? Is this All Blacks? It's not like B team. Is it A.5? There's a few big guns missing, and for the French, I do feel like this team is maybe the strongest one that they've fielded yet. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.